Well, she initially conceived of Three Guineas as a sequel to A Room of One's Own. As you can see on the screen, I placed a quotation from her diary, and that explains incidentally why they're missing apostrophes and these kind of things. It's not spelling mistake on or badly typed quotation on my part on this occasion at least. And she said, and this is the evening before she delivers the speech Professions for Women, which is also on the reading list. And she's obviously thinking about, what she's going to say the next day. And she suddenly comes up with this idea for a sequel to A Room of One's Own. She records, "I have this moment while having my bath conceived an entire new book, a sequel to A Room of One's Own, about the sexual life of women, to be called Professions for Women perhaps. Lord, how exciting." So what you get here, of course, is more of a focus, if you like, on the body. And at the very least, what you get in Three Guineas, you don't get presented this idea of the androgynous mind, but more a sense of differences between men and women. For Virginia Woolf, a passage here indicates that this is a difference established in the body, in the physical body. But at least in Three Guineas as a whole, it's more to do with culturally constructed differences that men have had years and years of having things a certain way: access to education, access to power, access to travel, access to all kinds of ideas and experiences, whereas for women it's still very, very recent. And this means that women simply see things from a different point of view from men. She talks about Oxford and Cambridge, for example. She says that, for men, they can go around Oxford and Cambridge and just look at all this beauty and this long tradition and all the wonderful things it stands for. And what a woman can perhaps see is something a bit more oppressive, something that's been, one of the themes of this book is how much money has been poured into boys' education, and to make that possible, the girls had to be sacrificed. So a woman looking at Oxford and Cambridge can in a way see their own exploitation rather than something wonderful. So in this work at least, she's very much focused on the idea of the woman as the outsider, the woman who offers a very alternative perspective of the world to the one that men have tended to promote. As I mentioned, the book is set up as a response to the question, what can women do to help avoid war? And really her conclusion is there's very little women can do. We're not really empowered at this kind of stage. But she does try to bring to the fore the relationship between masculinity and war. And you have to remember, as the Second World War was on its way, there were regimes not just like the Nazis in Germany, but the fascist regime of Mussolini. And the whole iconography of that fascist regime was indeed very, very male and very masculine. So even though Virginia Woolf's ideas were shunned by many people at the time, including her friends and members of her family, as time's gone by, they've achieved a lot more credence and recognition. So anyhow, by this point, Virginia Woolf seems to, if not abandon the idea of the androgynous mind, the transcending of gender, perhaps to realise that it's still some way away, and that the differences between male and female experience and history and tradition and all the things that have gone into culture shaping them in the way that they are, this is something that needs to be more of a focus. This is alluded to or mentioned in passing in the original speech, Professions for Women, where she tells them, and I quote, she tells her audience that she's basically had two very genuine experiences of her own in trying to have a profession as a writer. These were two of the adventures of my professional life. The first, killing the angel in the house, I think I solved. In other words, I think I got rid of this image of the woman that was popular in the Victorian age. I could get that out of my sights. But the second, telling the truth about my own experiences as a body, I do not think I solved. I doubt that any woman has solved it yet. Now, there's a potential ambiguity in her use of the word body here. Does she actually mean her physical body? Sometimes this word, especially in this period, was used just to mean a sort of person. But whether it's about, I've yet to find a way of writing about my experiences which come through my having this particular gendered physical body, or whether it's about my experiences that have come through, that have resulted from the cultural construction of me as a female in the world, isn't entirely clear. But certainly she's aware that this challenge of writing as herself, as fully herself, as exploring her possibilities and so on, this is something that she hasn't discovered yet, and perhaps this leads her to focus a little bit more on differences. So in the next video then I'll talk about Mrs. Dalloway.